Hello, everybody. We are just, not sure if you could hear me before, but we're just waiting on Logan to join real quick. She got tied up helping another hospital. I think it's important for her to be here. She's going to help us answer all the questions. So we will get started here soon. There she is. Hello, hello.
Hello, sorry about that.
Oh, it's all good. All right. So are you ready for this? I got a lot of good questions.
I don't know, I'm very nervous.
Don't be nervous. It'll be good.
Okay, here we go.
All right. So we'll get started. See, we have one person here. The other person just bounced. Karina, but the good news is people who didn't join, this is going to be posted on a bunch of different platforms, so you can get all your answers to all the questions you submitted. Either on YouTube, you can just look for luca.vet. You can search for us on any of the, if you go to the People of Veterinary Medicine on any podcast platform, you can get the audio version there. We'll post it to Facebook as well. So there's a couple of ways you can get your answers at your leisure. So essentially, we got a lot of questions. We'll see how many we can get through in the next 30 minutes or so. And if we didn't get to your question, you can always submit them again. You can either submit them via, if you follow us on LinkedIn or Facebook, there will be a link directly to where you can submit the questions, or you can submit them via our website. If you go to our website and you go to our About Us, there's a webinar question link there, or you'll get a little pop-up that says submit questions for the webinar. You can always submit them there. Next month, I'm going to try to get some cool prizes because we've got so many questions. I wasn't sure how many we were going to get for the first round. So next month, I'm going to try to get some cool prizes together for people. So whoever submits the best question, we'll give them some cool prizes as well. All right, so to keep things anonymous, I just have people's first names and then the question that they have. So this one is super simple, and Logan, I'll let you answer it. Carol asks, can you explain AI?
In the very broadest terms.
Yeah, I guess so. She just says, can you explain AI? Yeah.
So AI stands for artificial intelligence. And so it's in the way that we're probably talking about these days is we're looking at ChatGPT and other applications that are integrating with AI and ChatGPT to allow computer systems to automate certain things for us. So that can be a variety of things. So for example, I recently used AI ChatGPT to formulate some template travel plans and some travel schedules. And so it can be used for a variety of things, but what it's doing in the very vaguest of terms is taking all of the data that it has access to. And so that's where a lot of questions around AI comes into, is what data does it have access to pull its answers from? But it's taking all of the data it has access to then either formulate an answer for you or to write emails for you, to create plans. It can be used in so many varieties of settings depending on what it has access to and what questions you give it. So a lot of, when you're learning to use ChatGPT, one of the things you have to learn is how to ask AI the correct questions, because you can ask it a question and it might give you a correct answer in the way that you formatted the question. And so what you'll see is that as you use AI and you use ChatGPT specifically, you have to learn to ask it questions in very specific ways to find the things you were looking for. But yeah, as far as AI within the vet world, it's becoming the game of how can we use AI to take the data we have from veterinary databases across the internet, combine that data, and find answers quicker through the use of AI.
Yeah, great point. And I think like Digitail, friends over at Digitail, they have their thing called Ask Tails. So generally speaking, AI just tries to replicate some form of human behavior, whether it's like seeing things, speaking. So most common we see now, like Logan mentioned, the most common one is the language model. And so it'll like speak to you, like it reads and writes essentially. So Digital is they're leveraging AI. There are other PIMs in the market that I think are working on the same thing. They're essentially using an LLM or a language learning model. So you can ask it questions. You can be like, hey, Tails, tell me what was Fluffy's weight history over the last 6 months? And it'll scan the record and all the history for that pet and give you answers right away. So generally speaking, I think Logan hit it pretty well, but just generally trying to mimic certain human functions in a way in technology for us to then do things faster. So this one, I think this next question is actually probably a better one for you. And this one's from Susan, and she says, we seem to have constant printing problems. Any tips to help us get rid of the printing gremlins?
Yes. So somehow in the course of my IT career, printers have become my master class. So with printing issues, typically the main things that cause printing issues is an overall lack of consistency across computers in a clinic, especially when it comes to naming and how the printers are added. So what we see a lot of times is someone will go into their printer settings, click add printer, and it's going to come up with HP BV47213, and someone's going to add that printer name. And then someone's not going to know what that printer is, and they're going to add another version of that printer and call it reception printer. And so you end up with multiple copies of the same printer on computers. You end up with old copies of printers. So a printer gets replaced, you go into the computer, you add the new printer, the old one is still there. And without correct naming conventions and overall centralization and cleanup, typically the printer issues you're actually seeing is just a little bit of disorganization and no one knows where they're supposed to be printing to, because there's no consistency across computers. So a lot of times with printer projects, it's really taking it back to the beginning. It's going across every computer in your hospital, removing all of the printers, and then adding the printers back with the same name across all computers. We found can really help clinics narrow down where their printer issues are coming from when it's all centralized and organized.
Yeah. And I have nothing to add there because you're the expert. Although I did take all of the information that Logan and the rest of our team has developed over a while, and I've tried to create like an infographic that you can download that has like a lot of, it's like top 6 steps that we really like for helping with printing. You can download it for free. You can just go to our website. Things under the ebook section. We have like a library of resources. You can download it there for free. A little infographic that'll basically touch on those things that Logan touched on. So if you can get them cleaned up. This one I think is really funny. I actually have no idea who it is. They put the name as you know me, so I don't know who you are. But the question is what is the best espresso machine for a beginner? So they must follow me on LinkedIn because I always will post coffee stuff as well. Honestly, I actually, whoever you are, I posted just on LinkedIn the other day. I have a Rancilio Sylvia that I got like probably 13 years ago, and it has run forever. And I finally had to replace the water pump, which is like a $20 part and like a 5-minute fix, and it's back up and running. So honestly, probably the greatest machine. It's like 600 bucks. It's not, well, it was. With the inflation, it's probably like $3,000 now. So I don't know what the actual cost is. But the Rancilio Sylvia is an amazing little machine. It's 100% manual. It'll teach you everything you need to know about espresso. Yeah, and I've thought about replacing it, but it just works and it's so good. So yeah, that would be my choice. But that being said, we'll say you can buy like $100 espresso machine, just like a cheap Steam one that you can get at like Macy's or any department store. And if you have a really good grinder, you can still make really good espresso out of that machine. So really, grinder's a key. So if you had like $1,000 budget, I would say spend 60% of your budget on a grinder and then the rest on an espresso machine. Because as long as you have a good grind, you can make really good espresso on a lot of machines. All right. So with that one out of the way, Mark. Oh, here's another one. This one might be more for me, but we'll see. Mark, just because I have given a lot of talks on this. So Mark says, how do you leverage advancements in AI/chat GPT in your practice without worrying the staff that they may be replaced by a robot in years to come? I think Sebastian has said it best. I don't think AI is going to necessarily replace anybody's job, but people who know how to use AI will take the jobs. So I think AI is going to be a skill set that you're going to develop and you're going to learn how to use. I think like Logan mentioned earlier, you have to really learn how to like key in the prompts, and there's a lot of refinement in learning how like it actually works and the nuances of it and where can you use it. I don't think, right now, the models are so hard and expensive to train. I don't see it actually replacing anybody at this time. But yeah, I think but people who know how to use it will definitely get their jobs replaced. Like in the example, actually another talk I gave, I'm trying, I totally am blanking on her name. I did a presentation on AO with a amazing practice manager, and she'll use it to reply to emails. She'll create templates. She's created like hiring templates. So like it basically takes like an hour's worth of work of having to like write a whole bunch of stuff out, and then you spend 15 minutes cleaning it up and kind of like making it more specific to your needs. So I think those people become insanely productive and can do a lot of stuff in half the time that it would take somebody else. Those are the people that would take the jobs. I don't think the robots will. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's the same in the tech industry. Is there's these questions about will AI replace jobs in the tech industry? But even when we're training technicians, so much of it is the information is out there. You have to learn how to find it and use it. And that even comes with AI is if you don't know what questions to ask, it can't give you the answer. And so learning to use AI, like Clint said, will make you more efficient, but you still have to know what questions to ask.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. So I don't think any robots will be taking over. Oh, but I also guess we didn't answer the first part, like how to leverage advancements in AI. I think AI gives you the power to analyze massive data sets in a matter of a second. I think so I'm kind of a bit of like all my friends will tell you like I'm a bit of a contrarian when it comes to a lot of these things because there's not a lot of controls and not a lot of insights into how the models are being run. But I think that where it's going to be powerful is imagine if we can figure out a way to combine all of the data sets across all pets across the world. Then you could ask AI, like, and I'll just use an example. I have a Yorkie that's 13 years old that has TCC and the trichome over their bladder. Give me the 3 best treatment plans and the best results from all doctors across the world. And so in a matter of an instant, AI can basically interview all of your colleagues, give you their treatment plans, and then you can take the time. Then you can say like, okay, here are the top 3. Then you can pick up the phone as a doctor and call them and see like, well, why did you have so much success in this case? Like, what do you think you were doing that gave us such great results? So I think we can get very, very specific and interview hundreds of thousands of people at once to create the best treatment plans possible. I think that's where it'll be very, very powerful. But I still think it'll take you picking up the phone as a doctor and talking with another doctor to figure out what made that treatment plan work. But that's just an example I like to use. So I think those are the things that I think are going to be really, really powerful, analyzing massive data sets in a matter of a second. Here's a good one. Elizabeth asks, please explain best practices for internet failover when moving to a cloud software.
Okay, so the bare minimum there would be having some type of failover. So typically to set up a failover efficiently, you are going to need a business class firewall to be able to manage that failover. So it's not just bringing in 2 internet service providers into your clinic and we're good to go. Because if one goes down, even if you have the others, you have to have systems in place for it to complete the failover, which is typically managed through a business class firewall. Now, here at Luca, we do deploy firewalls that have built-in LTE, which can be super beneficial because it's completely automated and it's not 2 separate providers. So if you're in an area where you only have one provider or a secondary provider is too expensive, having the built-in option can be super helpful and it's completely automated, which definitely helps there. But at the end of the day, having a backup of any type, whether that be even a hotspot that computers can be connected to so that you have an emergency option if you lose internet is going to be insanely beneficial with the cloud-based system.
Yeah, I agree. I have nothing to add. She basically covered it. Let's see here. Jeremy, our veterinary clinics network is always slow. What can we do to speed it up? This one I think is challenging because I don't know that he doesn't elaborate like, is it like Avomark that's slow or Impromed that's slow, or is it like actual like browsing the internet? So this one's a bit of a challenge. So there's a couple of ways we could go here. Yeah, where should we start?
So this goes back a little bit to the AI question and why in some industries this can be difficult as well is vague questions like that. Why is the network slow? And like Clint said, what areas of the network. So if it is overall internet, if you're accessing a website and the websites themselves are slow to load, we're going to have to take it all the way back to the actual modem, run speed test there. It could be that you're paying for lower speed. So if you're paying for a 100 meg connection, it might just be time in your clinic to update to a 300, 500, or gigabyte connection. So it could be as simple as that, just the actual speed you're paying for are not high enough. It could be an issue with the modem yourself, so you're not getting the speed you're paying for, in which case that would be an issue between you and your internet service provider to work out. A line could be damaged, the modem could be going out, anything like that. And then down the train, it could be you're paying for gigabit speeds, but in your network closet, you have an old switch that can only handle 500. And so you can't actually get those speeds because once it hits that piece of equipment, you're being throttled. And then from there, it can just continue down the path. It could be a small switch that's throttling it on your network. It could be actual computer issues. It could be Wi-Fi issues if you're using Wi-Fi instead of Ethernet. So really troubleshooting network speeds is going to be taking it to the top and then seeing where the speed decrease actually occurs.
Yeah. And then I would say, if you're looking at like your practice management system is slow, I think one thing we see a lot is a lot of people will buy their hardware from like IDEX or whatever, and then they're buying servers that are also like, you know, like what generally if you're getting them from IDEX or Covetrus or whatever, they're generally under spec and you're paying way too much for them. And so a lot of times we'll see you really old servers that like with Avmark, it basically runs a shortcut that accesses the application directly from the server and has to communicate over the network. And so a lot of times if you got a really old server that you bought from Covetrus or Internet, sometimes, and if your practice has grown, hopefully, it's just a lot of times you don't have enough resources on the box. So it's not necessarily the internet, it's just that thing is being hammered. And and a lot of times a simple upgrade will fix it. And a lot of times you can buy a server cheaper if you go out and buy it on your own than if you get it through one of these other companies. So that would just be my only thing there. We did have a live question come in, so let's see here.
Yeah, I just see it.
Yeah, Karina says, great talk. I also have a question for you. With current resources available, specifically, how can we use AI in a veterinary practice? I think the easiest of that answer would be like Vetology. What's the one that Chris Simmons uses for his is it Signal Pet? They do like
They do
also
some
AI
AI radiology readings.
I think AI radiology is like a great place to start if you want to start leveraging it because like Vetology and some of the other ones, it'll give you a reading of the image instantly. And if you're not sure about it and you want a human to read it, like they'll have one of their on-staff radiologists review the image for you. So you all can also get human eyes on it. And there's no extra cost to have the human eyes on it. But I say start there because that version of AI has been around for so long. It's probably the most trustworthy. Some of the newer stuff that we're seeing with like AI and I mean, I'll use Digital as an example just because I'm super familiar with them. Like in their practice, they have the entire Plums dictionary. So like you can get references and like drug amounts, and you can ask like based on this weight, what would the drug, what would my drug amounts be? And it'll give you a reference. So like you can click on the reference and verify for yourself just to make sure it's accurate. I would also say like a lot of client communication is really good. I mean, there's been times where like, we get random emails or whatever, and sometimes like I just want to be like, stop emailing me, but I'll use AI to be like, create me a nice response, and it'll create me like a more like upbeat response, and then I can kind of craft a little bit, and it saves me a lot of time.
Can I add
Trying
one
to think of
thing?
what. Yeah, go for it.
Is I would say take a look at your practicing your workflow and see where your bottlenecks and your slowdowns are. Look at where you feel like you could be more efficient and your staff is spending too much time, and then see if there's AI and resources for that specific task. We see this a lot with some clinics is that it's new, it's shiny, everyone wants to incorporate all the new technology in their practice. And then sometimes that actually slows them down is because there's almost too much technology happening. So I would say take a look at your workflows and, is it like client emails are taking too long? Can we use AI to help quickly draft emails that we can send out to our clients for specific things? Are the radiology readings taking too long for where we send them now or to whoever reads them now? Can we improve that speed? Look at where your personal clinical slownesses are and then find services and technology and AI that can help you in those specific areas.
Yeah, and there's like cloud PIMs now that are also using like voice transcription. So it'll like as you're talking with your clients, you can have like a mic on. It'll like transcribe your conversation with your client, and then it's smart enough to pick out the different pieces and actually fill out the soap for you. So it'll like create the bare bones for you, and then you can kind of just modify it and fill out any gaps. I think that's a really good one because again, that's a massive time saver, right? Because how many doctors are going home to fill out their soaps and they're like, oh, I need to go cloud-based so I can actually do all this stuff from home and get out of the hospital. But what if you got 90% of it done while you're just talking to your client, and then you just kind of filled in some of the details, like how much time would that save you? I think those are some great places to start. There are also, if you're not using one of the cloud PIMs that has that feature, and also there's a new one. It's like Vet Notes or something like that. I cannot remember what they're called. Everything begins with vet, so I have such a hard time remembering the names. But they're becoming really popular because they're doing the same thing. Like you just basically run their app, and then based on which system you use, it'll help fill out your soap for you and save you a lot of time. So I think it's a great way to start. All right, here we go. Tina. This one actually, I highlighted this one because this one I thought maybe we were the only ones with this problem. But when I saw it come through, I was like, oh, I gotta highlight this one. So Tina says, Intravet crashes frequently and we have to reboot the server to get it to come back up. How can we ensure it's more reliable? Do we need a new server? We need Sean on here for this. The reason this is funny is we have another hospital that's in a process of moving. They're on Intravet, and this is a major problem for them. And we have spent so much time with Intravet support, like trying to fix this, and it is just such a nightmare.
The very short answer is the database. If you have a very large Intravet database, we are finding that Intravet can't handle it, is kind of the very short version. And so working with Intravet to then do SQL database cleanup on the actual database itself has been the best solution. But we ran it
for like 3 months and then
yeah,
tank
3 to
again.
6 months, and then they have to run the cleanup again. This is no surprise that clinic is currently in the process of moving off of Intravet due to these issues.
Yeah.
We've spent, or Sean has probably spent over 40 hours on the phone with Intravet at this point, working on this specific issue.
Exactly. And I thought it was so funny. I was like, we're not the only ones with this problem.
There's not just one clinic out there with issues. That's good to know at least.
Exactly. Okay. Marcus says, emails from our veterinary practice often end up in spam folders of our clients. How can we improve our email delivery? You're like the Office 65 like email queen, so I'll let you handle this one.
So a couple of things are happening here. Google and Yahoo specifically are in the middle of rolling out some new security standards. And if you
first question, people still use Yahoo?
Apparently it's hanging on out there. So the short answer is Google and Yahoo are in the middle of rolling out some new security standards, which are great. They're being put in place to prevent phishing and spam attempts, but they're also rolling it out very quickly. And so what we're seeing is that if you're using domain-based email, so Office 365, Google platform, or any other email platforms, there are some new security settings around your SPF record, your DMARC record, and your DKIM records that have to be updated to meet those security standards. The other issue can be just you have other settings like traditional settings that aren't set up fully. And so it will depend on your email platform. There are typically, if you're using a domain-based business class email, there are some tools you can run within your platform to check it. If you're not using business class email, that's going to be a good step one, is to get on domain-based email. If you're using an @Gmail account, @Yahoo account for your clinic, or any free accounts, those have the higher potential to be marked as spam. And so moving to a domain-based business class format will help prevent your emails from ending up in spam for your clients.
Yes, I agree. Okay, the next one here, I have nothing to add to that because I have nothing of value to add to that. It's not my wheelhouse.
I have answered 3 questions about that this week from clients.
Have you? Oh, that's funny. That's good. So that's a compliment. So this one's going to be tough. I have some suggestions, but yeah, we'll see what you think, Logan. So Linda says, we struggle with managing the inventory of our medications electronically. Is there a better system or tool we can use? My first thought is you should talk to Inventory Ally. So Emmett, and then let me look them up real quick. there's another person there, and she's absolutely amazing. Nicole Clausen, that's it. So Nicole is amazing. She actually was a she was actually like, she worked in practice and she got really good at inventory. And so really she's the person for this. And they're actually working on a new tool that will help integrate with all the practice management systems to kind of clean up the inventory piece. Because I don't know that it is very good. I don't know, have we heard any feedback on inventory from like the new cloud ones? Like, is there anything that's really good?
Yeah, I think this question can be hard to answer because inventory challenges vary by hospital and what their specific inventory challenges is. So even with clinics, I'm working with a clinic right now who they're still experiencing inventory challenges while using Cubex and EasyVet, which is considered to be a pretty good integration, and they're still running into challenges. And some of it is actually coming from their clinic workflow is not set up properly. And so they're sending requests over to the Cubex system without a couple of workflows being in place before that help the Cubex system. And so sometimes it can be as simple as that, is that there are workflow changes that have to be altered. Sometimes it's the limitation of specifically, I have never heard a single good thing about Cornerstone inventory. And so it can just be a limitation of your practice management system, and you're struggling along with so many others. And it's going to come down to what your specific inventory issue is. Will depend on the solution there, and your practice management system.
All right, we are coming. We only have a couple minutes left. We'll see how many we can get to. So short answer is we're definitely not going to get to everybody's questions. So if we missed your question, you can resubmit them next week. For next month's webinar, we'll do the same thing. We'll go through the same questions. And I'm going to try to get some cool prizes so we can actually make it a little more fun. So if we don't get to your questions in the last couple minutes here, please resubmit them and we'll try to get them next week. The sooner you enter, the earlier you get in the list is another thing. So we will start from the top bottom down. Alex asks, our clinic's Wi-Fi coverage is patchy in some areas. What solutions exist to improve Wi-Fi coverage throughout the hospital? And I'll let you handle this because we actually just had this conversation this morning with another 2-location hospital in New York.
If you can't tell, Clint and I are also in the middle of quarterly business reviews with our clients. So we've been doing a lot of answering this over the past few weeks. So the short answer is a mesh Wi-Fi network system. We typically deploy Unify Wi-Fi systems at our clinics. We find that they're the easiest to manage and get set up from the start. But there's a couple of systems out there that you can use, but typically it's going to be deploying a multi Wi-Fi access point system. So you'll have access points throughout your clinic, ensuring that the mesh is configured correctly, and ensuring that your security is configured correctly. So you're not giving your clients access to your main network will be there. If you're specifically having issues with iPads, that's a whole nother question. And it comes down to iPads don't work well with mesh systems. So if you're specifically working with iPads, let us know.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Although I will say, Chris, he seems to have the iPad thing figured out in his hospital. He hasn't really played
Smaller floor plan.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Okay, so we probably have time for one more here. Rachel, data backup seems complicated and time consuming. Are there simpler methods to ensure our veterinary hospital's data is safe? Yes, I mean, like we have a partner that we work with. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's super robust. And depending on how much data you have, like if you're the average Cornerstone clinic, I mean, we could deploy a backup system for like $200 a month, which for some people is really expensive. Some people it's not. But most Cornerstone and Avamart databases around 250 gigs. Usually, if you're larger than that, then you need a larger system. But it does it locally and then to the cloud, and then it completely replicates the server. It's super redundant and safe. We are actually, because of the cost, we're working with our network admin or CTO Sean internally. We're kind of building our own backup solutions that are a little more specific and a little bit better. So hopefully in the next like 12 months or 24 months, we'll have something a little bit better and a little bit more robust and cheaper. There are some cloud only solutions. I think the key with any of them is just that making sure they work. Like so many times a hospital will say like, oh, we have Cornerstone backups, but they haven't been running in like 8 months. So you're paying IDEX whatever it is, 120 or $200 a month to back up your data to the IDEX, the servers, but that hasn't actually been backing up for like 6 months. So you think you're backed up, but you're not. So I think that would kind of be my 2 cents there. And it also depends on what data too. Like one thing that we see a lot is most hospitals don't back up their dental images. And if you can push those, make a one-time cloud backup, but then push any new images to your cloud pack system, then they're backed up and you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, any other areas you want to talk about?
Yeah, and I would say if you're not using a Webpack system for your radiology, both standard radiology and dental radiology, high priority there. It's going to be the easiest option if you can back up your X-rays to a cloud pack such as IDEX, Webpacks, Sound Lens, AIS. There's 50 vendors out there, but backing those images up somewhere is going to be priority as well.
Yeah. Well, we didn't make it through. We still had, I think, about 7 more questions, but we've hit the half-hour mark, so we want to keep it short and sweet. So thank you, everybody that submitted questions. Next month, check back around the 15th of March. We'll do another one, and hopefully have some cool prizes. So thank you to everybody that submitted it. If you're listening to this and you have other vets that have questions or technology questions, tell them to submit their questions. 100% free. We'll submit them. They just got to get them in early because I didn't think we'd have this kind of response, especially on the first one. So get your questions in early so we can answer them. Logan, thank you so much for joining and helping me on this because you've got so much better insight than me on a lot of things. Plus, I think it's probably way more interesting than just listening to me ramble all the time. So yes, so thank you so much. That's it for today. Be free. You can find it on YouTube. Search for local veterinary data security. You can see this live Q&A #1, Apple Podcasts, etc. People of Veterinary Medicine. Find it there. Get all your answers. And until next time.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.